back in the matter of the Brenham children, file 24057.
All right, with the remaining questions to be answered for today as to whether or not to authorize the petition and issue the order to remove the parent from the home, we were ready to get started. Any opening comments on that point, Ms. Thomas?
I'll waive, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would just like to say that I am unable to research under my court the criminal case that might have bond conditions in that situation, and because the case could be dismissed if there is a case which I can't, is not accessible to me. I think we need to proceed to remove a parent in this case. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Thomas, your first witness.
Your Honor, I will call Ms. Trout.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, there she is. I think. Proceed at will.
Thank you. Ms. Trout, can you please state your job title for the record?
I am a CPS investigator.
And as a CPS investigator, what is your job entail?
We received allegations of abuse or neglect regarding children, and it is my job to go out to the home and investigate those allegations to figure out if they are true or not, and if we need any services in place or court intervention.
And is that how you learned about, well, let me just ask, are you the one who drafted the petition that's before the court today?
I did.
Okay. And as an investigator, is that how you learned about the allegations contained in the petition?
Yes.
Okay. What sort of methodology did you employ during your investigation of this case?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
Did you speak with law enforcement? Did you speak with parents? Have you interviewed children? Any collateral contacts, anything of that sort?
Yes, I have spoke to both of the parents in the case. I have also either interviewed or attempted to interview all of the children. I have spoke with relatives and other collateral contacts that have been involved with the family.
Would you generally say that the parents are cooperative with you?
No, they are not.
Can you give us a little bit of background about what the original CPS complaint that the department received was on this case?
Yes, so I received my first investigation with the family end of March, I believe it was the 21st, regarding concerns of meth use in the home and meth production. There were also concerns that there were 2 other individuals in the home that were living in a trailer in the backyard that was also producing meth. At that time of the complaint, Cynthia was already out of the home with 4 of the children, and 3 of the children were still residing with the father in the home.
Did you attempt to go to the home where the father was with the other children?
Yes, I did go to the home. The father would not let me in the home. He did not want to go over the allegations, would not drug screen, would not safety plan. He did let me speak with the 2 older children, and I saw the youngest child that was in his care, but he would not let me attempt to speak to him.
Okay. And were there any other concerns during your investigation that you had about the well-being of the children?
They were very sick at the beginning of my investigation. At the time, it was, when I received my allegations, it was believed to be due to meth exposure. The allegations indicated that one of the children were throwing up blood. After receiving the investigation, Cynthia did take her 4 kids to the hospital, and they did not test positive for meth, but they did test, a couple of them did test positive for the flu. And then when I requested the father to take the children to the hospital, he said he would, but he didn't complete that until about, I believe it was 5 days after I requested him to.
And and 5 days later, were the children positive for any meth at that time?
They were not.
Um, can you talk a little bit more about when the concerns regarding domestic violence came to your attention?
When I received my first set of allegations and Cynthia was already out of the home, family members have brought up concerns of domestic violence. And Cynthia indicated to me that they do have a domestic violent history, but she was not willing to speak on it at that time. She did say that Josh locked her in the house for 3 days and she lost her job because he wasn't letting her leave. But she would not go into detail about the domestic violence.
When did you receive the complaint regarding domestic violence?
That was, I believe it was April 2nd or April 3rd.
And how did you investigate that new complaint?
So I went out to the home and there was no answer. One of my coworkers ended up making contact for me with Cynthia, and she did not want to speak about the domestic violence. I did talk to the jail, and Josh was bonded out by his mother and had bond conditions of no contact with Cynthia. But there were other concerns of people coming to me saying that Josh was back in the home.
Did you speak with law enforcement that was involved in the domestic violence incident?
I did.
And did they have concerns about whether Ms. Knapp was a victim of domestic violence?
They did have concerns. She had lots of bruises on her that they took pictures of. And she claimed that they were from Josh, that he has assaulted her multiple times since she moved back into the home. And that at least one of the instances, there was a child that witnessed it.
When you spoke with law enforcement, was there any indication that the individuals living on the property had a history of any criminal charges involving meth?
I don't remember if it was specifically meth, but both of the individuals that were living in the backyard did have previous drug charges or warrants for their arrest.
And you indicated that it was reported from law enforcement, at least one of the children had witnessed the domestic violence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Witness, I'm sorry, witness what?
The domestic violence.
Thank
Were you able to speak with that child?
I did attempt to speak with her, but she did not want to talk to me.
Would any of the children talk to you?
No, they wouldn't. Not after the initial investigation. With the new allegations, when I tried to talk to them again, they wouldn't speak with me.
As recent as the 8th, your petition indicates that there was also another complaint received. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We received a new set of allegations that Josh was back in the home. There was another domestic violence incident. There wasn't a lot of detail about it, but saying that it was not reported anywhere, and that Josh kicked one of the children in their back and left an injury.
Were you able to confirm that, whether there was an injury?
I went to speak with the child and she wouldn't talk to me at all, so I was not able to confirm it.
And because, were you able to confirm anything in this investigation?
Not yet.
And as of today, do the parents recognize any problems in their home?
No, they don't.
And has there been any indication that domestic violence is not an issue?
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Yeah, I think that I worded it very awkwardly as well. Has mom indicated that domestic violence didn't happen?
She did. I spoke to her today, and she informed me that the domestic violence incident did not happen, and she would be speaking to the prosecutor about getting the charges dropped.
And that's despite law enforcement indicating that they saw bruising on her. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you briefly elaborate what you believe the substantial risk of harm is to the children if there is no court intervention in this matter?
Currently, without cooperation of the family, we are unable to prove whether the allegations are true or not, and having allegations of meth use and meth production and domestic violence in the home is very detrimental to the children's safety, along with concerns of violating the no contact order that multiple individuals have come forward about. And the mom originally said that there was domestic violence, there was bruises, and now she would like to get those charges dropped and the no contact order dropped as well.
Do you believe that ordering Mr. Branham out of the home is sufficient to safeguard these children, given those dynamics?
At this point, I think there are major concerns even with safety planning him out, but I would like the opportunity to provide services to the family. They have not had CPS involvement since 2015. And I think providing services is a good step with some cooperation.
Thank you. I have no further questions of Ms. Trout.
Questions, Mr. Brooks?
In plain English, do you want my client out of the house?
Yes, that is what we're requesting.
Nothing further.
Ms. Berger?
Thank you. Ms. Trout, how many times did you meet with my client?
I've only personally met with her once. I've had multiple phone calls. We've had a courtesy worker and one of my coworkers that have also met with her.
And the allegation of being locked out of the house, did that come directly from my client to you?
Yes, it did.
And do you know what meeting that was at?
It was a phone call that I had. It was one of our first or second phone calls.
And doesn't the petition state that the home was inspected and there was no meth or meth production found?
It was inspected by law enforcement a couple weeks after we spoke to the family and they were able to make it through the house.
Okay, when did you first speak to the family?
The exact date I believe was March 21st. And law enforcement wasn't able to get into the home until April 2nd.
So approximately 2 weeks later.
Yes.
And are you familiar with the effects of methamphetamine production on physical things like property?
I am not personally familiar with the details of it.
Do you know if the law enforcement that inspected the home was?
Yes.
And so if there were things that indicated that there had been meth production in the last 2 weeks, you think they would have indicated that?
I'm not sure. I would think that they would, but I don't want to speak on that.
But they didn't?
They didn't know anything in the police report.
And you said that you have not been able to confirm any of the allegations, is that correct?
Correct.
If you're not able to confirm any of the allegations, what makes this rise to such a high level where you're asking for jurisdiction?
Because there have been a lot of red flags throughout the investigation, not cooperating by parents or the children telling us that they don't want to talk to us anymore. Multiple outside people have told us that they're violating bond conditions. So even though we haven't been able to see it ourselves, there's enough warning signs that we would like to step in before we are able to prove and something worse happens.
And currently, do you know where husband is residing?
No, he would not disclose where he's staying to me.
But do you believe him to be staying in the marital home?
I do.
So you think that they're still living together?
Correct.
Have any department workers witnessed that?
They have not.
Are either parent working?
I do not know.
And have you been able to confirm the bond conditions?
I was able to call the district court and confirm it, but they would not provide me a copy.
Okay, so you were able to verbally confirm?
Yes.
No further questions, thank you.
Ms. Heiss.
Will you tell me the part of your investigation about the children being truant from school?
So I spoke to the school and, the children have missed over 20 days. A truancy officer reached out to me yesterday saying that, the school would like truancy to start getting involved with the family, due to missing so many days. There have been a couple doctor's notes regarding them, but it has not excused a good portion of their absences. It's only a few days.
So what you're asking for is time to put services in place so that the family can be reunified at the end of your work.
Correct.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you for your testimony. May return to your seat. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from?
Your Honor, given the agreement, I'm just going to leave it at that for purposes of the removal component, and would reserve any further questioning for our next hearing date.
All right, anyone you'd like me to hear from, Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor, I wouldn't.
Ms. Berger?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss?
No witnesses, thank you.
Very well. Comments in closing, Ms. I've got Troy Tipton on the brain because you said he was going to separate.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this juncture, it is just a probable cause standard. So that it's a possibility that one of the allegations in the petition are true, and I know that relates to the authorization, but continuing for the removal request of a parent, we have to indicate that a petition was filed under the Juvenile Code, which it has been, and that there's probable cause to believe the parent committed the abuse or neglect. And in this case, there is law enforcement involved that witnessed injuries on mom, and considerable information from other sources that there is domestic violence in the home, that the children are there, or at least one has witnessed it, and perhaps even experienced it themselves. So I'd ask that condition be met, and then also that the presence in the home of the person alleged to have committed the abuse.
Can you slow down, please? Thanks. I'm missing, it's just as it comes through the microphone over here, it's kind of flowing together.
The presence in the home of the person who had alleged to have committed the abuse or neglect presents a substantial risk of harm to the children's life, physical health, or mental well-being. This court is very well apprised of the adverse effects of witnessing domestic violence in the home. In addition to that, the physical safety components are also there. You know that there was verbal confirmation of the bond conditions, and as I stated earlier, this is not believed to be sufficient at this time to safeguard this family. And I know that there's frustration in this process, but I believe that this is what our juvenile code was drafted to do. This is a mandatory petition, given the Category 1 status, and even if it were Category 2, we would still be required to file this petition, given the lack of engagement and cooperation from the parents. The thing that we have to determine today is if these children can be safe without further intervention. And I believe that given the information we heard today, the risk is too high to not intervene at this time. So I would ask the court to continue to authorize this petition pending further preliminary hearing, and order the father out of the home at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
Well, let's see. I've heard a lot of words here, but I haven't heard anybody who say, yes, I can definitely say either A, I saw the domestic violence, or B, I was the victim of domestic violence. Borrowing language from the criminal case law, was a crime committed, and was there probable cause to believe my client committed the crime? I know it's not totally opposite to this case, but it seems like a reasonable standard for this court to use. There's nothing that says a crime's been committed. Nothing, not even secondhand information. we believe maybe there's been a crime committed. There's somebody, the neighborhood says they think so. Nobody said, I am a victim of physical abuse. I don't know what you could base this decision to evict my client on. Nothing. It's air. Thank you.
Ms. Berger.
Your Honor, I believe the only thing the agency is asking for at this point is the removal of Mr. Brooks' client from the home, not my client from the home, so we don't have anything else to add.
Ms. Hyde.
Your Honor, the source of the information came mostly from the mother, who has, who claims to have been a historical victim of domestic violence. She is a credible source. I have concerns leaving the children in the home. However, because this may be a Native American family, I think the active efforts require us to do as Ms. Trout asked, which is leave the children in the home with one parent, the mother, and see if active efforts can't prevent removal of the rest of the children. I'm not really sure based on the history. We know the cycles and patterns of domestic violence, and we know that there are times of better days, and sometimes people can be influenced to recant. And we know these things. We just want access to bring everybody's information up to speed so that the children aren't harmed by lack of information, lack of parent education. We can't rely on those bond conditions. I'd ask you to make the order in this case that dad be removed temporarily until we can get to adjudication and get the case going. Thank you.
Well, before we go into the findings, thank you for raising an issue that I did need to revisit. Mr. Brooks, did you talk with your client about whether or not he has Native American heritage?
I have not,
Okay,
but I think, wait a minute. Yes, maybe I did.
Yes, we did.
And I believe the answer was no.
Mr. Branham, do you have any reason to believe that you are a member of a Native American band or tribe, or you or your children would be eligible for membership?
Absolutely not. I even did 23andMe, and I'm Irish, British, and Polish.
Thank you.
And I believe Cynthia is the same thing, because she had the 23andMe done as well.
Ms. Berger?
Your Honor, my client indicated that there is a possibility of Native American heritage through her paternal side. So I do think it needs to be explored.
All right, have you supplied those names to Ms. Trout for purposes of exploration?
I've not.
Okay, do you have those, Ms. Trout?
I do not.
Would you mind sharing them?
Sure.
Ms. Trout, you have a couple of names there. You don't have to share them, but do you have enough information, do you believe, to make your inquiry?
There's a little more information that I would need, but I can ask once we are done.
Ms. Berger, are you comfortable staying so that your client can have you there to advise her during that process?
Yes.
Thank you. Very well. The court does find all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's hearing. I do acknowledge that this petition was filed and served today. The issues that were raised, however, are not new to the family. Many of them constitute what has formed the basis for a criminal charge against one of the parents in this particular case. One of the issues that will need to be explored in the future is whether or not the domestic violence allegations are mutual, or whether or not the parent who's been characterized as a survivor of those incidents is also a perpetrator or simply a survivor. And whether or not there are any additional risks associated with her as a parent. As of today, I cannot put my finger exactly on a reason to say that Ms. Cynthia Knapp should be subject to the jurisdiction of the court, but I'll look forward to additional proofs when we come back for the next prelim. As it relates to Mr. Branham, he's expressed the desire to retain his own private counsel. And although I have a lot of confidence in Mr. Brooks, I do want to allow him the opportunity to secure his own private counsel and both parents to review the petition more in depth and to formulate a position between now and when we come back for the next preliminary hearing that's been scheduled as April 16th at 10 a.m. I share the concerns raised here today on behalf of the children, but I also have to acknowledge, as the department has, and even the parents have, that there are bond conditions currently that prohibit Mr. Branham from being around the children, from being in the home at this time. And I'm going to allow that to remain the only safety provisions that will be in place until we return here April 16th at 10 o'clock to explore further. Good luck. Please make sure you follow those bond conditions, and we'll see you back here April